Now, if you've been stuck at the same weight, whether it be for a snatch or a clean and jerk, over the last few months, maybe even years on your Olympic weightlifting, and it's starting to frustrate you, then stick with me in this video and I'll show you today the lowest hanging fruit that you can improve on that's gonna help you hit PBs instantly. Now, the lessons that we're gonna be taking today is from a new client that's just signed up at the Lifting Zone. And I did this review today and I was like, damn, everyone needs to see this video, because if they watch it, they're gonna make instant improvements. Because I see this mistake time and time again, every single time I have someone on board in Olympic weightlifting. And this is why when we get someone start with us, we see absolutely unreal results inside the first 6 to 8 weeks of them joining us, because they're making simple mistakes that they didn't correct in the early stages of their learning Olympic weightlifting. And it ends up leaving people having kilos left not on the bar when it comes to progress in Olympic weightlifting. It's very rare, considering I work with the vast majority of people over the age of 30 years old, that someone is limited by their strength. 9 times out of 10 is common technical mistakes I see time and time again, and limitations on mobility. So without any further ado, we're gonna dive in and have a look at this athlete's first video that they've sent me for initial analysis. I always like to start with an initial analysis when I'm working with someone, because for me, it's not just about writing a program or telling them what they need to improve. I wanna be able to show them what is exactly holding them back. Not only that, I want to explain to them exactly why it is an issue, and then build them a plan and show them exactly how we're going to improve it. It means from the first day when I'm working with the client, we've got clear goals, clear expectations, and we both know why we're doing what we're doing in the program. It's the biggest mistake that people make when they go and embark on improving Olympic weightlifting. They go, well, I just know I'm not very good at Olympic weightlifting, so I'm gonna start investing more time into it. No, what we need to actually do is identify, well, what part of Olympic weightlifting is holding us back the most? That way you can be strategic when designing a program or deciding how you're going to invest your time in your training. 9 times out of 10, you may even be this case as well. You're doing CrossFit or you're doing another sport, and Olympic weightlifting is just part of what you're doing. It means that you have to allocate your time across your training to giving a little bit of time to CrossFit, a little bit of time to whatever it may be, your stretching, mobility, and a little bit of time to your weightlifting. If that little bit of time is only 1 to 2 hours a week, you need to make sure it's specifically invested into the lowest hanging fruit, the main thing that's holding you back, in order to yield a result. And this is why, if that isn't the case, I always say to people, if you want to see significant improvement and really break through a plateau in Olympic weightlifting, then you need to be investing 3 hours a week into your training. And if someone comes to me and they say, Sonny, help me with Olympic weightlifting, I've got 1 hour, 2 hours a week to do it, I say no, because I know, having taken 40,000 people through this process, that you need to be dedicating 3 hours a week and look at a minimum term of 12 weeks in order to yield results. Weightlifting is a long game, and for that reason, we need to think of it like one. Okay, so let's start off by playing this through. We're looking at one of my athletes, about mid-30s. We're looking at a 74 kg snatch here. This is the first video that he sent through. So I'll let you guys watch it with me and see what you think. Feel free to stick it in the comments what you think is the biggest problems here. Okay. Probably some things that you're noticing that, oh, I do that too. So let's rip right into this. So first things first, what I want to discuss is setup position. Now, setup position is so crucial for us as weightlifters, because it's the foundation or the start position of where we begin the lift. If there's faults in our setup position, it causes a whole chain reaction of other mistakes to happen later down the line in the lift, which is why I always start my review with looking at the start position. Now, few things that you need to take into consideration when we consider someone's start position. Everyone is different makeups, different limb lengths, different heights, different ranges of mobility, and that will massively affect someone's ability to get into a start position. So if there's mobility limitations in the hips, ankles, thoracic, that will minimize your chances of getting the key factors of the start position correct. Now, let's talk about those key factors. First things first, we need our feet in the position where we're going to produce most vertical force. And if you think about creating vertical force, okay, up, which is where we want the bar to go, we would put our feet in the same position as we would go if we were going to jump as high as we possibly can. This is what's going to allow us to create most force at the optimal position during extension. So that's step number 1. The second thing is we need to be able to load the legs. Now, when we think about loading the legs, the biggest factor that comes into play is bum height. Bum too high, very difficult to load the legs, more loading the back. Bum too low, very difficult to load the back, very easy to load the legs. So we need to find that happy medium between the two so that we can optimally use posterior chain strength and leg strength in the first phase off the floor, which is referred to as the first pull, but I like to refer to it as the first push. Finally, we need to make sure we're maintaining tension in the mid to upper thoracic, even in the whole thoracic spine, to be honest. If you're struggling to maintain tension in the first phase from the floor, in the setup position, it will be the first thing to give way under load. You won't necessarily experience that when the weight is light, but you will massively experience it when that weight becomes something that you can't muscle up, or generally is heavier than you. And that's why I see so many people start to plateau around the 70 to 90 kg mark in Olympic weightlifting. If you're a relatively strong person, middleweight male between 80 and 90 kilos, that will be where you'll cap out with minimal technique. If you're lighter than that, or a female watching this, it'll be close to around 70% of your body weight, okay? So you can do the maths and understand where potentially probably you're already plateauing in those snatches. Now, let's refer specifically to his snatch position. Now, I'm not just going to talk about what I don't like. I want to tell you what is good too. So let's just start with that. One of the good things that we notice straight away is that eyes are up. Now, the eyes being up in the start position is great because naturally the chest will follow the eye line. If you're looking high or just above eye level in that start position, it will increase the likelihood of you having your chest up at the start, okay? Now, moving on to one thing I don't like. In this start position, the toes are quite straight and the feet are quite wide. Now, you will sometimes see people utilize this start position, but I wouldn't suggest it for someone that is struggling specifically, which we notice here, to set the spine in a neutral or slightly extended position. So extended position here would look like this, neutral would look like this. What I think we're seeing here is a little bit of this. So let's understand, why is that happening? Now, one of the most important factors to being able to set in a good start position, right, when we're in the start lift, is being able to pull the shoulder blades back and down. By pulling the shoulder blades back and down, that allows us to keep the chest up in this position. So I want you to also notice one other thing for me here, and I'll try and demonstrate it for you too here. What you'll notice is, due to the wide starts that we're seeing in the feet, when I actually track his arm position here, what you'll notice is that there's a slight bending of the arms in this first phase. So let's have a look at this here. So we can see, if I just clear the rest of these lines so you can follow me, clear that, you'll see that there's a slight bending of the arm. Now, I commonly see this mistake, this slight bending of the arms, when the feet are too wide, the arms have had to wrap around the knees in the set position, causing the arm to feel like it's as straight as it can be because it's pressed up against the knees, okay? But what we actually always need to do is get the arms straight in the set position. Now, the reason why this is so crucial is because what allows us to utilize the legs in the first phase from the floor. So a simple thing that I would tell every single person that's trying to progress in their snatch to do is to make sure that when you set up, your arms are straight. If your arms aren't straight and aren't locked out, then you're going to be losing power in the first phase of lift, and really increasing the likelihood of you utilizing too much upper body or having an early arm bend in this first phase of the floor. The simple fix for this, I'm going to tell you at the end. Let's continue on with those faults that we're finding, okay? Now, from this first phase of the lift, as you see we initiate the lift, you'll see how the head actually loses height here. So you'll see how the head drops down before we initiate. This will shift the weight into the toes and forward in the start, okay? So this is the athlete's attempt to try and generate power in the first phase from the floor. Remember, speed from the floor is not important. Change of speed is. So if you try and be too aggressive when the weight gets heavy in the first phase from the floor, again, it will massively increase the likelihood of you losing position and the bar actually slowing down by the time it gets to waist height. Now, from these common mistakes that we identified in this first phase of the lift, okay, from setup, you'll notice that by the time the bar reaches knee height, some other problems have unfolded. And that again comes back to me saying how it is so important from the start of the lift to get the foundation right, because if we don't get that right, then other things are going to go wrong. So we'll see now that problem has worsened during this phase now when we get into above thigh or mid to upper thigh, and we want to start getting the legs involved and again striking vertically through the lift. We see the backs come quite parallel now to the floor. The arms are bended, so we've reduced the distance between head and bar, which is never any good. Okay, my drawing is terrible today, sorry. But as a result of that, athletes trying their best now to pull that bar back in to center of gravity, because center of gravity is where you can, one, impart more force on the bar, and two, move more dynamically around said load. Okay, so that's what's happening here. Now, one thing the athlete does well here is the knees stay bent. Okay, Bent knees is good in this position because we need bent knees in order to strike with the legs. And that's why we see such good extension happening here, particularly with the athlete. But the problem is you'll never maximally utilize leg strength if the arms are bent during the phase where the legs are extending, because the weight goes into the upper body. If the weight's in the upper body when the legs are trying to strike, they don't transfer the power through the bar, okay? If you imagine what we're trying to do here, I'm trying to think of an easy way to explain this to you. But if the load is here on tight arms and we're striking with the legs, if the arms aren't relaxed at this point, it's like we're hitting into a brick wall at this point. So the legs extend, but no transfer happens of the upper body. Whereas in actual fact, what we're trying to do when we have the arms relaxed is we let the legs strike and propel the bar, and then the arms are there to finish the movement. And they finish the movement there to direct the bar at the top phase lift. Now, the reason why I see this so often, it's so common, is because when weightlifting is taught, people put too much emphasis on pulling the bar. Naturally, we think about pull, we think about bringing something towards us. And then secondly, because they put too much emphasis on shrug. Now, although those two things happen, i.e. the movement of the arms and the shoulders rising through the ears at the top phase of the lift, if they happen before leg extension, we're not maximally utilizing lovely leg extension like we're seeing here, which is why it's best when you start to teach someone Olympic weightlifting to get them to focus on the legs, the big muscles and how they work. And then once they've mastered the ability to be able to utilize the legs, then start to talk about these smaller muscles and other things that help with bar direction. Okay, so that's just a tip for the coaches here. And if you are a coach watching this video is thinking, I really need to transfer these skills onto my clients, I'm going to pop a link below this video to my level 1 coaching certification, which is an incredible course that will teach you how to teach foundations really, really well. But anyway, let's move on. As a byproduct of, again, the upper body working too much through the middle phase of lift, the second most common fault that I'm seeing here, which is again something that's so common when someone comes in to work with me at the lifting zone, is that the bar is swinging through the middle. Now, when I talk about swinging through the middle, I'm referring to during the middle phase of the lift, the upper body doing this to bring the bar up. So you'll see how my hands get really high and they start pointing towards the sky and the bar goes on a loop. Whenever I'm doing that, the bar's so far away from center of gravity, which again then becomes a problem when we're working with loads heavier than us, because you've got a heavy object away from the body. So if this guy weighed 70 to 80 kilos, he's now working with a load that's heavier than him, that's away from center of gravity, makes it even more difficult for us to impart force. So as that happens, bars away from the body. Naturally, if the bar's away from the body and our goal is to get underneath the bar, we now need to move from our head position being back over here to being over here when we're underneath the bar, which causes the head to move forward like so, which we'll see happen, okay? Now, as a result of the head moving forward and the bar swinging back, there becomes a point where these two things cross over, i.e. body and bar cross over, shoulder mobility hits end of range, torso then can't get any lower, and we get a stalemate. Now, at this point, this can either cause the momentum of the bar to continue to move back and the body to move forward, or there is a point where we resist, which we see here, before we then go, oh shit, I need to go down, and then we start descending. And this is why you'll commonly see people ride it down, even when the range of motion here is actually quite good for the athlete, okay? So in order, I'll come back to actually telling you how to fix that in a minute. Let me touch on my final point, which is a common mistake, okay? Now, obviously, depth, most important thing when we're thinking about being efficient in the snatch. If you struggle to get deeper in the bottom position, you've got to pull the bar higher. Therefore, you need to be stronger in order to lift heavier, which is why you'll always see any athlete competing at the Olympic Games do a full snatch. They're not doing a full snatch because it's harder and looks cooler. They're doing it because it allows them to lift heavier, okay? So how can we improve this bottom position simply? Now, yes, mobility is coming into play here, but again, some simple changes to position. The straighter the feet are, the more requirement that has on ankle mobility, okay, in order for you to hit depth. By very slightly turning the toes out a little bit more than what we're seeing here, this will allow the hips to articulate slightly better within the hip socket. Okay, we still need to improve the range of motion in adductors and hips in external rotation, but that would actually give us 2 or 3 more inches in terms of depth. Now, the benefit to this is what it will also do is change torso position to being more upright. Having a more upright torso position changes the amount of strain that puts on the shoulder in external rotation in order to be able to achieve a good lockout position. So by improving lower body position, we improve torso position. By improving torso position, we take less pressure on the shoulders, and therefore not only do we achieve a better lockout position, but we take away strain from the shoulders. Okay, so look, there's 3 very common mistakes I see. I'm now going to tell you exactly how to make these changes to improve these areas. And if you implement this into your lifting and you're new, you're going to instantly hit new PBs. You have to trust me on that. Remember, I've taken thousands of people through this process. Okay, so let's come back to the start. Now, simple thing that we do to correct the issue that we're seeing experienced in the start position of this lift is when we get set up, what we think about doing here, okay? If you notice how my shoulder, when I'm internally rotating, sits forward and behind my chest line. What I'm gonna do to change this is I'm actually going to rotate the elbow. Now, when I rotate the elbow to show it more in front of the body, naturally the shoulder sits back and the chest line comes in front of the shoulder. Now, when we do that, the muscles in the mid to upper back, rhomboids will help, and trapeze will help sit the back in a better position, or the chest in a better position here, and allow you to maintain tension and better thoracic extension in the first phase of the lift. So we're gonna take a small external rotation here, set the shoulder blades back and down, okay? And then the other thing that we're also gonna do is very slightly move the feet in the start and turn the toes out a touch. This will help promote the foot movement and the better use of the legs in the first phase from the floor. As a result of making this change, the exercises that I'd implement into this guy's program specifically would be an exercise called Snatch Dead Pulls. Now, a Snatch Dead Pull, and Crispy, if you can pop a video to it here while I'm explaining it, is an exercise where we move slowly from start position to waist height. This gets you used to drilling good positions. Now, just like anything that we do, drilling good position is about time under tension and building strength in the right position. So I like to move slowly through this movement, and the emphasis is on me standing up to my extension position, so up on my toes here, but without anything having happened with the upper body. So this is a great drill to train someone. I would then implement the Snatch Dead Pull alongside snatches, so combining the 2 movements there to help seed that into the full snatch movement. It really helps with timing and will allow for that transfer over of leg power through the middle phase of the lift, okay? So that's issue 1, how to fix it, and the drill to fix it, okay? Which again, that allows me, when I'm creating the program for Mike, to be very deliberate about the exercise selection that I'm gonna be putting into his program. So I don't want him doing high pulls at this point because, hey, we know he's got horrific early arm bend, he's not using his legs, would be counterproductive, but could be something in a generic program that would make my problem even worse. So you're starting to follow how that custom is much, much more beneficial. Now, how do I get him working better at this transfer through the middle? So the bar moving away. Now, something that's really good to do with this is to regress the learning process. So starting at the waist height with a barbell and focusing on what's happening from here to here. Now, the fastest route from here to here is from A to B. So any movement away from A to B line causes a further distance that the bar needs to travel to get to the position. So we need to work on keeping elbows higher than hands and backs of the hands pointing forward. Now, my thought process when I'm lifting, and if you're a more competent athlete, I would just probably be able to say this, think elbows higher than hands through the middle, or think about picking the t-shirt up on the way through. Combine these 2 things, you're naturally going to turn over better. But for a beginner, what I would actually get them to do is stand in a rack with a PVC pipe and do an exercise called rack slides, okay? So again, Crispy, if you can pop a video to this so people know what I'm referring to. Rack slides is a great drill to teach you how the arm should be moving through the middle phase of the lift and get a nice vertical tracking of the bar when doing the snatch. So once I've done a few with the PVC pipe and I've got a feel, again, building the moat pattern of how my arms should be moving, I would then go, right, now put a barbell in your hand, practice the same movement, and then I would go down to mid-thigh, jump, and then down the mid-thigh, jump, and turn over. Get them practicing this turnover with a light weight so they get a feel for how the movement should be moving through the middle phase of the lift. Again, that's something that I'll implement for Mike. This will also teach him not to throw the head forward or to drop the chest in the receive, but instead catch with an upright torso position, which is in turn going to be so important because remember, by making this change, we're going to make it easier for him to descend straight into the bottom position without having this crossover before he descends. Now, that's the second thing. So we're going to do turnovers, we're going to do power snatches from hang to practice that, and then we're going to seed that back into the lift. The final thing that I touched on was mobility in the bottom position. Now, pre-training, what I would do specifically is give him some mobility drills that will work both internal and external rotation of the hips. I would target adductors and I target thoracic extension exercises. I would run through these 3 exercises 3 times on repeat before session. So spending 15 minutes pre-training will help mobilize him, get him comfortable in the position I want him to be strong in when he gets into his training session. There's no fast fix to mobility, but consistency is something that you need if you struggle with mobility. And if you haven't checked out the mobility manual, specifically the lifter's mobility manual, I'll pop a link to that into the description below. It can be a great step-by-step course for you to follow if you know mobility is holding you back. Now, final exercise and final fix that we need to include to fix this athlete's issues in the program is snatch balance. Now, snatch balance is a great drill, not only one for working on footwork, which you know he struggles with, but also if you're getting used to catching and descending straight away into the receiving position. This builds confidence, builds strength, and builds stability in the most challenging position of Olympic weightlifting. That's exactly why I would include it in every single person's program at least once a week. It is your biggest bang for your buck if you're struggling with your snatches. So if you're not doing that right now, start building that into your program. Remember, there's 2 variations that you can do: drop snatch balance and snatch balance to a leg drive. Again, I'll put videos here so you can see both of them, the 2 variations. One, you keep the weight light and you focus on speed. Great for not letting the chest drop. The second one, we load and it comes with a leg drive. Great for building strength and stability. Try both, but my coach made me do 5 sets of 5 empty bar drop snatch balance every single day that I weightlifted for the first 2 years of my Olympic weightlifting. And that's probably why I feel super confident in the bottom position and can drop extremely fast. Okay. So guys, just to recap what we've been over here, the importance of identifying what your flaws are and how to fix them is crucial so you can be deliberate in your training. What I've identified in today's video is 3 very, very common faults that I see with anyone that comes in. And the problem is people don't know that they're doing it until I sit down and do the analysis with them, okay? They waste a lot of time before they come and have this professional review of their lifting and then get a deliberate plan to practice it. We guarantee results in 12 weeks because we're extremely systematic in the process that we go through. Analyze, understand the problem, understand the goal that the athlete's trying to achieve. Fit within your requirements of how long you can train for, how many days a week you can train for, and what other training you want to in and around your training program. We give you the accountability on a day-to-day basis around what's good, what's bad, what we need to improve on, and adapt the program accordingly. But throughout this process, what I do is I educate and I teach you so that you don't need me after the 12 weeks. If you decide to stay with me beyond that point, it's because you love having accountability and your goals will start to get higher and higher, especially when you're surrounding yourself with people that are hitting new heights every single day inside the Lifting Zone community. If that sounds like something you want to be a part of and want me to sit down and take a look at your lifting, I can give you the opportunity to book in your free discovery call with me. Now, only go ahead and book this call if you're serious about investing in yourself. I only want to work with people that are serious about improving, not just like the idea of doing it, okay? And there is different levels in terms of investment when it comes to working with me. Right the way from generic training programming, which again, I've highlighted why that potentially will not be the one, right the way up to working with me on a bespoke 12-week program, which can go in excess of $5,000 US. So just for you to get an understanding, anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 US is what you'd be looking to invest if you do want to work with me. If that is something you're prepared to do and you can dedicate 12 weeks and at least 3 sessions a week, then I am your man and I'll guarantee you a result. So I'll pop the link to that booking below. If not, and you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I look forward to chatting with you very soon. Go and implement what I taught you today, and I guarantee you'll get that low-hanging fruit.